morning, everyone. And most especially, I'd like to thank my friend and my sister, Ekwa, for inviting me this morning. We come a long way, from Form 1 to 5 to many, many years after. So here we are. I always do things for two reasons, as I was explaining to my friend that was sitting beside me, either for a cause or for a person. And this morning is for Ekwa. So I'm very glad to be here. She called me in England, I think, sent me a message in England yesterday or the day before, and said, "What's your topic?" I didn't reply her for a while, because usually, until I'm clear in my heart, I don't settle on what I'm going to talk about. So later I sent her on the plane, sent her a message to say, by yesterday night, when I arrive, I will know. But before I went to bed last night, I had a clarity in my heart or in my spirit as to what I was going to talk about. And by then I'd concluded I was going to speak about the power of influence, the house of influence. And as the young lady, Ore Ogunbiyi, spoke, I fully understood why that became my topic. In reality, we live our lives every day thinking it's just one day to another. We get to a point in our lives where we make commitments to set up institutions. And when you build an institution like a school, you have to have an understanding of exactly what you set out to do. And when you build a company or whatever, and you spend time interacting with other people, you have to understand really what you're doing. And especially when it comes to a place where kids come from this age of innocence. I love children. I only have 3. I wish I could have had 10. But I guess it would have been a total disaster for my life to imagine having 10. But it would have been fun to have a house filled with like 10 children. But you know, you look at these children and you see the power and the joy of their innocence, the freedom and the liberty of expression without any inhibition, the ability to not care what the next person thinks, the power to be themselves, like the young lady who had her sunglasses upside down. She was totally comfortable and confident. You know, she didn't send anybody. She's not trying to impress anyone. She totally was just enjoying being herself. And one of the things we do along the path and the journey of our lives is we lose that ability to be true to ourselves. We lose the ability to, like children, be free in our spirit to express ourselves. But even more importantly is that as an institution, we gather people together, not realizing that by the things we do every day, we shape and we mold the lives of the people around us, and we influence who they ultimately become. And the place where that is even most essential and crucial is in a school. Because you are given a clean canvas. When children come to you, they're an open book, innocent and true, waiting to be filled up. And what shapes what they become, whether they become like an Ore or anybody else, depends on what they are given. You know, on the plane yesterday, I watched a movie. One of the things I don't do that often on a plane. I love to do nothing when I'm flying. It's my quiet time. Nobody can reach me. My phone is not ringing. I'm not talking to anybody. And I usually don't even like to talk to people on the plane. So I close my eyes and pretend I'm sleeping, because I just want that moment where I'm not doing anything. But yesterday, I decided to watch this movie. And it was funny. It started with a little girl, very chubby, cute, sitting in front of the telly, watching, is it The Woman in Red? Who remembers that movie? I don't know if that was the title of the movie. I never know the titles of movies. But anyway, it was that movie. She was watching a love movie. And she was very fascinated by it. And apparently it's something she loves to do all of the time. And then her mother comes in, totally exasperated, you know, jumps on the sofa and looked at this girl and said, "Why are you watching this crap? And the girl said, no, mommy, it's lovely, it's this and all of that. And she said, they're lying to you. It's not a love story. There is no love for people like you and I. You know, you're not like her. You're not slim. Did you notice the gap between her nose and her lips is very short? She's beautiful, she's slim, she's all of that. That kind of story is not the kind of story that would be the story of your life. You could see the disappointment in the eyes of this young girl. She was probably about 8. And, you know, she was quiet for a while, trying to figure out what her mother said. And then flip, they went to age 25 of the same girl. Now she's an architect, a very smart architect, but chubby, she didn't care about how she looked, didn't care about dressing, didn't have confidence in her own skills as an architect, respected by the rest of the team at work, but had no respect for herself or love for herself and for the talent she exhibited in her skills, and definitely had no love for love. And there was a guy, one of her colleagues at work, who was totally besotted by her. But she could not even see it. She couldn't stand that the guy was always looking. She assumed he was always looking at the poster of a model beside her. But apparently, every time she turned to look, she saw him looking in her direction. I assumed he was looking at the poster. He was looking at her because he was so in love with her. Anyway, fast forward. This conversation with her mother shaped the rest of her life and her thoughts and belief in herself and in her capacity to find love, and literally destroyed everything that she could have been, except for a fortuitous moment that happened and stuff, and she rediscovered herself. But what's the point I'm trying to make? The power of influence. And a school is a house of influence. Every teacher has a word to speak, as every parent has a word to speak. A word to destroy or a word to build. A word to discourage or a word to encourage. My youngest son is 18 now. I saw one of his teachers, Miss Jimmy, there. And I remember when he was in nursery school. He was young. He was one of the youngest in their entire year group because he's a December child. And he had a teacher at that point who wasn't conscious of the power of words and said to him that he doesn't know anything. All he can do is write jaga jaga. And so when you say to my son, no, you can't write this, he said, Mommy, my teacher says I can only write jaga jaga. It was a battle. I had to go to school, and I know how to fight when I'm fighting for my own. And I fought, and his teacher was changed, and we kept on at it, and my son found himself. Are you conscious of the power you hold? As a teacher serving at Greenwood House or any house, as a parent with a child committed to your care, not just your own children, as an adult, as a boss, as a leader in any group, as a person who has the power to speak to the life of another, whether people who work for you through thick and thin, and sometimes you do not know the sacrifices they make just to serve you. But the words you speak build or destroy their lives. And the biggest house of influence is a school. For these innocent children, like a clean canvas, have come to the school to be poured into, to be shaped, their belief system to be defined, their faith in themselves to be destroyed or to be built, their relationship with others to be defined by how they see their parents, their teachers, and people around them interact with others, to learn to respect and honor every other human being will depend on how you treat the least of the human beings around you, because they will learn from you, and through your eyes they see the world that is being revealed to them. Are we conscious enough to daily understand that we have a great power of influence? We shape the country that we live in. That every country is made up of people, and every person is from a household. And every family is responsible for what the country becomes. Because it's the summation of every household that we have, and every community, and every kind of child that we raise out of a school that becomes the kind of adults that lives within the country. And so when we complain about our country, just remember, we built it. We built it every day in the way we have shaped our children. When you raise children that you make think that everybody that works for you is their servant, then you create a problem even for those children. Because sometimes the biggest blessings of their life is in the hands of the people you call their servants. And they will never be able to get it because they don't know how to relate with people as equals. I remember something my father used to do when we were young. He was the factory manager of West African Milk Company, WAMCO. And at the weekends, if we had people come from the factory to fix something in the house, maybe an electrician or some technical, anybody. In the morning, if my dad was sitting at the table on a Saturday morning having breakfast, and someone had come to fix something in the house, when they were done, he will tell the person, do you want to join me for breakfast? So it's a very carefree guy. My father is. And he had respect for people because every person was the same. You couldn't say my driver in our house because you own no driver. As my father would say, it's not your driver, he's mine. And you only have the privilege of having access to that driver because you don't have any. So I have had the pleasure of saying to my children, it's not your money, it's mine. And I can do whatever I like with it. So the privilege you have, you get to go to some kind of schools you might not have gone. All I owe you is the school. I don't necessarily owe you a Greenwood house. And that's why you need to be grateful for your parents. You need to be grateful to the parents who make the sacrifice to send you to the very best school. Ask them how much they're paying. It's not cheap for you to come to school in Parkview. Neither is it cheap to have the kind of teachers that you have or those that take care of you. The whole infrastructure of educating you is a sacrifice that your parents make, and you must never take that for granted, because what they're trying to do is to put you in the place where hopefully you will get shaped in the best way. Not that sending the kids to school and paying the money excuses the parents from our role. It's a joint venture project. The joint venture of creating the balance of influence in our children's lives. Because sometimes the teacher is the wrong one for influence. Might be the right one to teach maths, or teach English, or teach French, but it's the wrong one for influencing our child. And we need to be accountable and responsible. And when it matters, we must have the courage to get up and speak up. And we can't work against what the teacher does at school. Because when a teacher reprimands a child for bad behavior, and a parent goes to school to insult the teacher and abuse the teacher, then you deserve whatever you get. Because the child you do not allow to be influenced constructively and positively becomes a pain for you and I in the future. Sometimes the right kind of love is hard, unfriendly love. It isn't kind, but it's necessary. And as parents, we need to understand we're the biggest influence in our children's lives if we rise up to the occasion. And like Pastor Wale said earlier, it can't be just the mothers. It's true, there are few men in the house because fathers think they make the money. Well, many more women are making money now. So it's not about that. And guess what? You can't use money to teach a child values. You live it and you show it to the child. You cannot use money to buy a child the right ethical practices or the right behavior. You live it and you show it. You cannot use money to buy a child love. You show a child how to love by loving the child in every way that you can and encouraging that child. You cannot give a child self-confidence, no matter what you have. You can't buy a child beauty, even if she's the most beautiful girl in the world. She doesn't believe it, she's ugly. Period. It's about how you pay attention to helping your child and the children in your care for the teachers. If you understand that you hold a special place of influence and that the legacy of our lives will be written by the lives of our children in many ways, because they are first fruit of our influence. And we, as adults, as parents, as teachers, as leaders, have a great responsibility and a great power. And every office is a house of influence. Every school is a house of influence. And every home is a house of influence. But a house of influence for everyone that comes through it. In your home, your house girl, you could change her life and she will reward you later. Your driver, you can change his life. Any person that comes across your path. The guys who work for you, whether at the lowest level or at the highest level, or the people in your neighborhood, just understand, you have the power of influence in your mouth and in your hands. And as a teacher, it's in the things you do every day. Because sometimes you're the only difference between a child that will turn out right and a child that will turn out wrong. I congratulate Greenwood House for being a successful house of influence for the past 25 years. It takes a lot to build an institution for that long. The Chair Center Group was 30 last year. And you know, when I sat down and thought about 30 years of enterprise in Nigeria, in manufacturing, how did we survive it? Well, we did, because as many troubles as we have in this country, we still have a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of good in this land. And the way we will bring forth that good is in you and I standing up for Nigeria by building what we can and building it forward, so that every unit of what we build, a Greenwood House, a Chair Center Group, a whatever company or organization, if we pull them all together, the strength and the capacity of this nation will emerge. And we can truly say to our children, be proud to be a Nigerian. It's in our hands, in the things that we do every day. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Greenwood House.